Hi everyone, it's Barbara Ann Foley again, Harwich Council on Aging Director, and I have a great team with me today. We are going to be talking to people from Nauset Neighbors, and I know you don't know what they are perhaps, but you will by the end of this show. So on my immediate left is Barry Worth, who's a volunteer with them, and on my immediate right is Bill Zajac, also a volunteer with them, and on his right is Pat Zeiss, and she's the president of Nauset Neighbors. So what we'll do is give you a little bit of an overview of what they do, and then we're going to talk to two volunteers who actually work with them, and then we're going to tell you, one, how to sign up if you want to be a volunteer, and also how you can sign up if you want to receive their services. So they are a wonderful organization that our Council on Aging works with. A number of our seniors are partaking in their services and love them. So we wanted to invite them because there is a need out there for a couple of things I'm going to let them tell you about, and we wanted to have them come in to tell you themselves. So without further ado, if we could have Pat give us kind of a little bit of an overview and let us know how you got started.
Thanks, Barbara. Nauset Neighbors is an aging in place organization. Our mission is to keep people independent in their own homes and contributing to society. And it's based on the Beacon Hill Village concept. Some of you may have heard of Beacon Hill Village. It was launched in 2001. Nothing is more different from Beacon Hill and Cape Cod. The demographics are quite opposing, but the need is still great. Back in 2009, at a Nauset newcomers meeting, a volunteer division decided that they wanted to do a big project. And the big project was based on the Beacon Hill Village concept. I had just retired at that time, so I knew that this was something I would be interested in doing. So from September 2009 till February 14th of 2011, we worked and worked and worked and worked and worked until we formed our village. At that time, on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2011, we had 40 members and 80 volunteers. And I want to stress the fact that we are an all-volunteer organization. There's no one on our board or in our organization who is paid. And because of that, the fees that are charged to our members are very low. What are the services that we can offer? Transportation is 78 to 80% of what we do, because there's so many people on the Cape who no longer drive or perhaps should not be driving. And many of them feel that their lives have come to an end because they cannot hop into the car. Well, as you're going to find out from Barry and Bill, it's a pleasure for our volunteers to fill that need, not just to the doctors or to the dentist, to the hairdressers they go, to go grocery shopping, to go to visit a friend. The next popular area is handyman help. Right now, our guys are so busy putting in air conditioners, moving patio furniture. Changing light bulbs is a year-round event that we do all the time.
Like outside on those lampposts.
Exactly.
I remember that being one of the clients that was one of yours, and it was a gentleman, he's now deceased, but he was very, very shaky and had Parkinson's. Mm-hmm. And he would go out and try and do it himself. And we were just getting to know who Nauset Neighbors were at that time. And I said, you've got to call them. I mean, it's an inexpensive, safety plan, basically, and there were other things like air conditioner, TV remote control.
Right.
One time he had in Spanish and he couldn't get it back to English. Very simple things for somebody else to do, but
exactly.
for him was a
the technical help is a great task. I think some of our volunteers invented these gizmos in the first place because they're so good with it. Email. Some of our members really want to communicate with their grandchildren via email, and then if that goes down, they're very distraught, so our people can help with that. And then friendly visits. There's so many people who don't see anyone from one end of the month to the next, and we can go over and have a cup of tea and discuss scrapbooks or grandchildren or play a game of cards, anything that just makes their quality of life that much better. So in a nutshell, that's what Nauset Neighbors is all about. We have wonderful members, we have wonderful volunteers, and we've built some wonderful relationships between the two of them.
So when you talk about members, Pat, how many members about do you think you have that
At
you guys
the
serve?
moment, and it varies from one day to the next, we have a little under 320, probably about 319 members. I interviewed someone yesterday, brought them in, we'll be bringing someone in hopefully tomorrow. And then at the same time, I get notice of someone who's passed away or someone who's moved. So we've been above the 300 mark for, I'd say, a good year.
Wow.
And growing from 40 5 years ago, the need is really great.
It's a huge need.
Yeah.
So to combat and work with those folks, how many volunteers do you have?
On the record, we also have over 300 volunteers. But I say on the record because at any given time, we probably have about 100 volunteers available. People go south in the wintertime, have company in the summertime. So that's always fluctuating. But I would hazard a guess that 99% of our service requests are filled by volunteers. And especially if it's a medical appointment that is going unfilled, we start calling people up, and Barry and Bill will explain how that process works. But we try not to pester our volunteers at all. But when it gets to 2 days before a medical appointment, we'll start calling people to try to get that member to the doctor.
So Bill, how did you get involved and why?
Well, I previously had lived in the greater Springfield area in the western part of the state, and I had worked for the greater Springfield Senior Services and did a lot of driving of seniors in that area, and it was something that was important to me because at 55 years old I was forced into retirement. I had a stroke, and I lost my license. Medical staff took it away until they felt I was ready to take a test to earn it back. And when I was going in for daily therapy, I relied on a cadre of friends and relatives for rides into to the hospital for therapy. And
so you knew firsthand what it was like
absolutely.
to have that need
And
that service.
so I just was paying it forward after.
That's awesome.
After I got my license back, I enjoyed driving. Was one thing I could do, and I enjoyed being, and the pleasure I got out of it from the very beginning, and still do, is a lot of times seniors are shut in. They don't have a lot of interaction with other people, and they like to talk. And it's just like you immediately become best of friends in the car. You know, sometimes you have a 15-minute or a half-hour ride to a medical center, and it's nice to exchange personal stories with the members receiving the service. So.
And is that, Pat had said that there's a number of different kinds of volunteers and things that they do. So would you be a, say, medical driver or a volunteer driver and other things, or is that your niche and you stick with that?
I do mostly driving, but I've put in air conditioners. There was one of our clients, I think he was from Harwich, and his brother had passed away and left the brother a Apple computer, and he needed someone to show him how to get email and send email on it. And I just happened to have an Apple computer, so I was aware of it, so I signed up for that particular assignment. And that's the great thing about Nauset Neighbors. You look at a list of possible assignments, so you can look at the dates, the times, and what they are, what they're about, what it involves. And you know, I've got grandchildren, I've got children. They visit in the Cape mostly in the summer. They forget about us in the winter, but so when they're going to be on Cape, I clear my schedule. I don't do any volunteering, but once they're gone, I start signing up for assignments again. But it's a nice thing because if you know you've got something planned, you know, I'm in a book club. You know, if I've got a book club meeting in a particular morning, then I wouldn't sign up for an assignment that day. So
it isn't, the good news is it isn't a Tuesday at 10 o'clock every week kind of a commitment. No. It can be something as simple as when you have a need, Pat, for someone to help a person with an iPad or a computer, I'm your girl, call me, and this is my number, and these are the days I'm available. So they can kind of dictate a little bit what their schedule is that you will then go through and say, oh no, we don't want to call him because he doesn't do Tuesdays at all, and this lady wants Tuesdays.
Well, it's true. We do ask that information when we take a new volunteer on, but it even gets a little more sophisticated than that. Our sign-up sheet is all online. It's available 24 hours a day. So if someone's having a restless night and they get up and they're plugging away at their computer, they can look at that sign-up sheet, which goes out for a couple of months, and see what they would like to do. And they just pick and choose at their leisure. Then they sign up for something, the member is notified the next day, the volunteer then calls the night before and says, I will be there to do such and such, or they make arrangements. Sometimes with technical things, you make it, well, is 10 o'clock good or is 3 o'clock? So the flexibility is really wonderful.
So easy to do. You know, for the volunteer, the program is easy. The list that you look at online, as Pat and Bill mentioned, you know, it goes on for probably 3 months of, well, excuse me, it's really closed in on about a month away, so we don't get too far out. But for a month to 2 months, you can look and see, this is, you know, this is what's available. This is what needs to be done. Which ones can I fit into my schedule? And then you fit into your schedule, and just all you do is say, yeah, I'll accept that, and then you get a confirmation and an email confirmation. And then guess what? Somewhere in between, something else comes up, and you can't do it. It's easy enough to find somebody else to take over the program. But it's been you know, very satisfying to do that kind of work, and it's just so easy to do it. There's no effort to it. You don't have to go out of your way to find the assignment, and there is no magic that says you have to do 3 assignments a week or 3 assignments a month or 3 assignments a year. Some people.
And I think that's key, because what we hear from our volunteers at the council often, especially the boomer generation that they like to throw me in the middle of as well, is they will say that, you know, I'm happy to volunteer, but I don't always know my schedule, 1. 2, I'm still working part-time perhaps, and I'd like to give back or pay it forward a little bit, but on my time. I don't want Tuesday at 2 o'clock every week. So if you have the flexibility in this organization for somebody to look at something online and say, I want that one and that one and that one, and it's their
exactly
own
what
choice.
happens, yeah.
And you do as simple as push 3 buttons and push a button 3 times, and you've got the 3 assignments.
One of the things that we tell our members when they're brought into membership is that we need at least a week's notice in order to get that volunteer. And the more notice they give us, the better chance we have of getting the volunteer.
Help, yeah.
So it could be someone like Barry might go on every Friday. And if someone hasn't given the week's notice, they wouldn't have had a chance to have someone like Barry be his volunteer. So the better notice we have, the quicker and better flexibility we have in finding the volunteer for that member.
And it's such a satisfying operation. You know, I've been involved in customer service, I guess, my whole professional career, one way or another. And I find this one of the most satisfying things that I have done in a very, very long time. People are so appreciative of what you do.
Absolutely.
They are, you know, it's just outstanding to see how much they appreciate what we do. And I sit and say, well, you know, I enjoy it. I end up making friends, and I end up being able to satisfy myself as well as the person who needs the service.
Now, what is your niche? What do you usually sign up for? Or is there one thing?
I'm usually a transport person, doctors, grocery store, a fellow that I take to Stop and Shop once a week. Normally we would start at 10 o'clock today, but we'll go at 1 o'clock. Those are the kind of things I've been to. There are some people who want to be able to run 3 or 4 different errands, and they can wait, and and
put them all together
up on Thursday, and then we'll go to the Stop and Shop, and we'll go to the newspaper, and we'll go to the post office, and do 2 or 3 things like that. They are so thankful that it can be done, and it's really no effort, and just the fact that you have the car and you can drive, and you can offer the service. That's
now,
what I've been involved in.
Barry and Bill, do you find that once in a while you'll be in a different environment, maybe not the grocery store, maybe a a doctor's office or down at the docks or something else, and all of a sudden you see someone in there waving at you because it's somebody that you've served in some capacity.
Absolutely.
As a driver or somewhere else. And
Yep.
and then maybe the wife or a friend with you is like, who's that? And then you're trying to explain, well, I took Susie for a ride last week or a month ago, and that's one of the,
Yeah.
I find that happen in the grocery store all the time, but it isn't because I've done the volunteering so much, although in my other job I do. It's Channel 18. They'll say, hi, how are you? And I'm looking and I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope to God
you're
I'm
a
not
celebrity.
getting my father's dementia because I have no idea who this woman is. Well, then I realize that it absolutely has nothing to do with me. It's Channel 18. She thinks she knows me because she's seen me on the show. So I'm sure you have that,
Well,
that celebrity type recognition.
One funny story. I started volunteering when we moved. My wife and I moved down the Cape full time. We have a house in Eastham, and we virtually didn't know anybody down here other than a few neighbors. And so I've got the name of my first assignment. It was soon after we moved down, and I'm saying, it sounds so familiar. It sounds so familiar, but I don't know anybody down here.
Right.
So I pick the woman up and bring her to a doctor, and all of a sudden it hits me. I asked her, were you a realtor at one time? Yes, I was. I said, well, we bought our property from you
Oh my goodness,
when we
what a
built
riot.
20 years ago.
Well,
So,
Cape is a small world.
yeah, it really was.
So, Pat and Barry and Bill, to wrap up, if I were listening and in the audience and I wanted either to become a client and be able to have services done for me or brought to me or rides and that kind of thing, or I have a few hours every month, maybe not always the same hours. I know that behind us we have a website, and I know Jamie will put on the phone number. And Barry was saying how easy it is to go online. What are you looking for kind of in the niche? Obviously, transportation is probably one that's always a need, no matter what time of year we're talking about. Are there others besides drivers, other things that you're looking for, techie
What we're
people? or-
truly looking for are more volunteers that would cover a full span of services. And we cover 6 towns. We started with Nauset Newcomers, so that's Wellfleet, Eastham, Orleans, and Brewster. And then we took on Harwich and Chatham. Harwich and Chatham wanted to start a village, and we said, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Bring us the volunteers and we'll help you. We desperately need volunteers from Harwich. So I'm telling you that from the depths of my heart. We have tremendous numbers of people receiving services in Harwich. We have 4 people I know right now who are on the waiting list to become members of Harwich. We can take members in when we have more volunteers. So if you have that one day, a week, a month, or a year, think about it. Use that website, use that phone number. We have a volunteer intake meeting where you find out all about what it is to be a volunteer. We have one tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And you get processed. Everyone has a query investigation, so our members
gonna be
are
another
all
question.
yeah
Yep.
are all checked
That's
out.
important.
And then you go and you have these wonderful experiences. We can tell you stories that you wouldn't believe, but they're true, they're laughable, they're fun, and it's just a wonderful
And
thing
lastly,
for us.
what is, I know it's a low cost, and if someone was in a hardship, I know there's scholarships or there's,
There are waivers that are
Waivers.
given. Right now, it's $75 for an individual membership and $95 for a household. When we began back in 2011, it was $225 and $175.
This is per year.
Per year, yeah,
and
per year.
So what organization goes down
Yeah.
in their price?
We've had that question many times.
and a member isn't limited by the number of times they use the service.
Absolutely not.
That's important too,
Yeah,
especially with
they
rides.
can have up to
Yep.
3 services a week as long as we find a volunteer. And in acute situations where they might need something every day, we do that as well, as long as we can find that volunteer.
Well,
And
to
we
say
do have
to-
that waiver if it's.
Let me insert just one
Yes.
little thing. You don't need to volunteer a day a week. It may be 2 hours.
Oh, an hour.
Right.
You may need
You're
an hour or
absolutely
2
right,
hours.
Barry. You're absolutely right.
So I thank all of you for coming on. I'm sorry the time always goes by faster than we
It
hope.
did go quickly.
But I hope all of you that are listening out there, if you have any time that you're able to volunteer, and again, it can be as Pat said, 1 hour a month, please give the number on the screen a call. And even if you're not sure, give them a call, because it may be that you have something to offer that you just don't even know you have to offer, that they have a need for or niche for. So thank you once again for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.